people are so forgiving about the effort that was put into the movie, that no matter how sloppily it was done, everyone goes out, okay naman siya, okay naman siya, for a Pinoy movie, okay siya. Ayaw ko yun, ayaw namin yun, di ba? I want you to go out and say, takain, ang ganda ng movie talaga, ganda siya.
I really like the cults are one of my favorites.
Cults, yeah, I naubos na sa akin yung serial killer. Ayoko na masyado. Kasi pare-pareho lang yung, di ba?
Like Jeffrey Dahmer, mga ganun.
Oo. Papagod ako. For the past year, 2 years already, I've been shooting this never-ending series that I'm doing for Netflix, na By Bust, the series. And lahat ng pinapanood ko, popcorn, trashy, ganun. I don't watch anything na parang anlalim. No?
Growing up, I know you watched a lot of films with your dad. Did you watch any Ilonggo films with him?
The movies that we've been watching were mostly ang daming Italian westerns. Yung mga Cry Onion, Bud Spencer and Terence Hill. Mga buddy movies dati. No? And then coupled with Shaolin movies na before pa ng mga Bruce Lee, before pa yung Jackie Chan, mga kwan pa yun, Alexander Fusheng, ang ganda nun. And all their hair, yung talagang period pieces talaga. I've had so much parang discussions with my dad growing up. Every time he's drunk, he'd call us out of the room and said, "Who is God?"
Are you an atheist or do you believe in God?
Me? I don't believe in God, but on those moments where you want to, you're talking to someone when you have when you want the universe to do something about whatever, may that be with me, with someone else, you find yourself talking to someone or something, not necessarily to God or not necessarily praying, na parang, what happened? Can we do something about this? Can we, alam mo yun? Pero the idea of God in the most logical sense, the idea of God, parang it doesn't work for me.
On your 53rd birthday, you had wished for everyone to work harder and that Filipino films will be its best in 2024. Were Filipino films at its best in 2024?
The cinema right now in 2024 ng Pilipinas, where we're really at a loss. We're nowhere internationally right now. Parang stunted yung growth natin. We're nowhere in the film festival circuit. We used to have a kind of cinema that festivals embrace, whether meaning film festivals that are genre driven, so horror, action, or the art house side. We used to be parang namamayagpag, no? But the past few years, so hindi na nakakalusot kasi sa mga Cannes, sa mga Berlin, no? All those parang I don't have money. I made this very small film, but at the risk of sounding conyo or burgis, no? But there are movies that were born out of passion by filmmakers, and it's so small, and sometimes it gets into film festivals because of, see, he challenged himself, he shot it in his own local region, and he found this story about the mother who was looking for the son who left the house early morning, ganun. Parang it doesn't work anymore in the international film festivals. Right now in the international film festivals they still look for fresh stories, fresher insights, better context culturally, but at the same time they want a level of production that goes with it. So that on that side, ganon. Now, fresh out of the pandemic, Our local cinema naman is also dead. Ang galit namin before was, oh, it's all Marvel, Marvel, Marvel. But even the Marvel that doesn't make money anymore, hindi pa rin nakakapasok. We can't show our films, right? So, analysis ka namin ay early on 2024 January when we were doing a planning sa office. The analysis was we need to ask the audience to go to our theaters and not just give them movies that are authentic and yung parang what we love, the movies that we love. It's not enough anymore. They need to they need to have a reason why they need to get out of their house, ride the bus or ride the jeepney, tricycle, jeep, bus, papunta sa mall.
You talked about this in when you were promoting Upstream and how, um, like, what's the reason for people to go out if they can just
Hmm,
watch it at
ten
home?
pole, ten pole. So as producers, let's meet the audience halfway. Let's give more money to our films so that it has a level of shit. I need to watch this in the big screen. There's a level of parang understanding sa audience na hindi, huwag natin antayin sa Netflix, manood tayo sa sine. No.
I know that you put out Upstream in 2020,
Yeah.
and I think since then it's sort of just become quiet. There was a period where you guys said that you were going under maintenance, but
Yeah.
nothing's been put out. And
We
I know that
yeah.
you're very vocal about cinema attendance and the importance of going to the cinema. So when you were going through that project, what was it like to balance those two points of views? One is going to the cinema, and the others is reality that people are at home watching films.
Which is where we made a mistake with Upstream maybe. Because I was the main goal with Upstream was to bring movies that they could not see in the cinemas. I only think that way. I'm not really a true blue businessman. You get what I mean? That okay, let's put up
No 5-year plans.
yeah. And yung parang every year we need to
Mm.
add more this. So the only idea for Upstream is we need to bring movies that no one can see in the cinemas because they have no access in our cinemas, no? So we brought in some strange titles, no, um, into Upstream. And then we were side by side with Viva. Viva also put up their own. It was a pandemic decision for all of us because there was no movie houses. So we decided, okay, let's go streaming. But Viva pivoted into what they are now, Viva Max, which is nahanap nila yung soft porn, erotica na route, which worked for them. Of course, we didn't want to pivot. We were Upstream was in co-venture with Globe, and since then, Anima and their mother company outside of Globe, which is under the umbrella of Globe, also closed down. No, so that together with that, Upstream also closed down. Uh, so with Upstream, yun lang hinahabol namin. And of course, it's hard. It's hard to um, convince people. Maybe I was thinking, oh, we should be like Mubi, we should be like Shudder, wherein you find all these small movies and you can watch it there. But it doesn't work that way. A lot of these big movies, they've already, before going into the markets, they're just selling the cinema release, and then the rest goes to either Netflix, HBO.
So
So
the streaming industry is just really like cannibalizing itself. It's
yeah, and it's more apparent now. So we heard all these stories 4 or 5 years ago that there's only a small window wherein HBO, Disney, Amazon, Netflix, and all the smaller players, Paramount, Peacock, all those. There's only a small window where they're all going to green light a lot of stuff, series, movies, etc., etc. Bring in all the A-listers into their content, and then when they find out that it's Netflix or Disney who's at the top of the game, everyone's gonna tighten their belts. And that's what happened now, starting last year. Around the time we were doing the HBO series for On the Job, we sold it. We HBO licensed it for us, the first season of On the Job. We were also negotiating for Netflix, and then I was pitching left and right to Amazon and to Disney. Right, when there was a new group of guys who took over Amazon in the US, and Amazon was developing all this uh, Southeast Asian content. The US guy said, because LA lives in a bubble mainly. They're the only cinematic world in the universe. They don't know anything that's happening in India.
And I want to talk about On the Job for a little bit.
Yeah.
When that came out, parang I grew up in a sort of Conyo Burgess upbringing.
Really?
Yes. Talaga?
Talaga?
Oh, and I vividly remember my friends like coming up to me and talking about On the Job, and yung reaction nila, they're like, kaya naman pala eh. To the point na parang they didn't expect it, pero it showed what was possible. So what is it about, I guess, that reaction or from audiences that made it feel like, aside from the international
Yeah.
recognition, what do you think it was that prompted that reaction from audiences at the time? Did you get that when it came out?
No, we'd get that on the way we make our movies. We'd get that a lot, but it also doesn't feel right for most of us filmmakers when you hear na, "Ang ganda, parang pang Hollywood yung
Oh.
movie mo. Tanginan nyo." Di ba? Ganyan naman dapat ginagawa yung pelikula. Hindi naman kami nangongopya sa Hollywood. Alam mo yan? Di ba? Na parang, wow, for a Pinoy, the other line that I really hate is, well, for a Pinoy movie, maganda siya. Yung, yung parang, no, we take pride in the movies that we make, and we do it without thinking of, oh, it should look like Hollywood. It should, we're just giving it what it deserves. What are those, right? Craft it well, cast it well, right? Um, and most importantly, write the script well. Because a lot of the movies that a lot of people who comment, for a Pinoy movie, okay siya, is because the script doesn't always work. No, alam mo yun, people are so forgiving about, the effort that was put into the movie, that no matter how sloppily it was done, everyone goes out, okay naman siya, okay naman siya. For a Pinoy movie, okay siya. Ayaw ko yun. Ayaw namin yun, di ba? I want you to go out and say, tangina, ang ganda ng movie talaga. Ganda siya. No? And you rarely hear that, because we're really an Americanized country, no? Very westernized. The way we look at movies is mainly Hollywood. No, we have no access to Uzbekistan cinema, Iranian cinema. So mainly, our culture of watching movies is what we see on the big screen, the Marvels, the tentpole Hollywood films. So medyo uh, weird yun, 'di ba? Pero nagulat din ako at how much following On the Job the series had on HBO, which I didn't find out from HBO. I found out from Amazon, because HBO doesn't release anything about how many views, whatever. So it was only when one of the executives who greenlit On the Job moved to Amazon, and I met him right after that, and he said, you know why HBO is not telling you how popular On the Job was. It's because they don't want you to ask more money for season two. He was the one who told me um, the viewership of HBO is divided into bronze, silver, gold, platinum. OTJ for 4 months was on the platinum. The whole of Asia. because for 4 months they only licensed Asia. After 4 months, they renegotiated and renegotiated for Europe and North America release of On the Job. That's including the Latin Americas, you know. So of course we felt na okay, successful siguro because now they're asking for the rest of the world, no, to showcase On the Job as a series. But we never knew that. I mean, on the way they categorize a good viewership for the series na may bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and where we are, which is platinum.
When it comes to representation of Filipinos in cinema, what do you think about sort of this hinging on certain parang experiences in the Filipino culture versus like trying to make it universal? Because I feel like sometimes it becomes a crutch to and fall back on certain tropes, but then for a culture that's underrepresented in a global scale, sometimes you have to lean back on those tropes.
Yeah.
What do you think of that delicate balance of
Um, I'm always invited on to talk about how do you break into the international market with the work we did. And what they didn't know was we knew from the get go, our company, which I'm partners with Don Don Monteverde, dalawa lang naman kami dun, Reality MM Studios. Uh, from the get go, we wanted to cater to both the local and the international market. Why? It was strategic because number one, we don't do rom-coms. I don't know how to do a rom-com. I may want to do a rom-com if I want to, but it's not at the top of my head. No? And because we're a rom-com country, we're a melodrama country, we knew that just banking on local releases, will go bankrupt, 'di ba? So we went on certain genres that we like to watch on the big screen, no? Horror, action, sometimes erotica, you know. So when I'm asked how do you break into it, we really strategized on what kind of we did a few movies, 3 or 4 movies that we thought was gonna go international, but it didn't. It was only with On the Job that we got that. Honor Thy Father didn't even go international.
why not?
I don't know. Maybe it was too much of an art house. So the balance we're trying to do is really uh, put as much of local context into your films, but talk about universal ideas that everyone can understand. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll give an example. The first movie that we tried to sell uh, for the international market is the Tick Tick, the Aswang Chronicles. It's an Aswang movie. Okay, Aswang. Okay, exciting. May action, ganon. No? And we can share it as a vampire story. Universal naman yung story, no? Inatak yung bahay, ganon. I asked a lot of festival programmers and even distributors to watch my first cut here. They went, no? From the US, from Italy, pumunta sila nanood. We have a cinema in the office which we parang ganito siya kalaki. Yan.
Okay.
No, 35-seater. So that's where we show it to them. Even in our new office, we brought that when our old office closed down, we brought that cinema. They saw it and sabi nila, yeah, it's exciting, it's good. But what we didn't know is that it's a comedy. Comedy doesn't travel. Oh my God, that was the first learning. That comedy it is dependent on each region. What's funny to us may not be funny to Vietnam, may not be funny to Singapore, may not be.
Filipino humor is so specific.
Oh, it's most especially. The main idea with going international is there's enough local context to it uh, that all the rest of the world wants to see about Filipinos. And I'm not saying squatters area, ganon. What I'm saying is generally a clear local idea, like with On the Job, for example, prisoners being brought out of prison to kill, right? It could also exist in Mexico, but it 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 is also unique to us in a way. So using that idea, but talking about thematically, On the Job is about your value on your job. Uh, like even if I'm an assassin, if I do it really well, I will succeed at it. But if I don't do it well, I'm also going to lose the job. No, so that's what it does. Now, a lot of the problems locally is that there's too much local context and not enough universal ideas. So a lot of them would end up in the art house circuit because, of course, the art house audience would love to see, what's totally unique to the country of the Philippines. But in order for you to have business, it has to be what we call an art house slash genre level of filmmaking. Because if you're too art house, you won't get the business. If you're too genre without local context, that's where you end up in B movie circuit,
Right.
which is your action movie would look the same as everyone else, and it's just set in the Philippines. But there's no, oh my god, I mean, I'm gonna kill myself for saying this. But no, you know
Use
what?
your own
You
mileage.
know what? The film festival circuit nowadays have the same group of people going around it, and they all talk about the same kind of good movies.
Mhm.
Gone are the days in my earlier years in the festival circuit where people discover new voices and new talent. A lot of times, you're from another festival, you watch this film, this set of films, you pass it on to me. I like this, I like this. So most of the festivals would always see the same kinds of films talking about the same kinds of ideas that are acceptable to that group of film festival circuit guys, which is scary. Not scary, but which is limiting. You won't discover those voices anymore if we all just want good, nice movies and nice ideas, right? The reason why it's movies is because you want to showcase a different side of the human psyche, the human character, that a lot of times we may not agree, but that's why it's a movie, right? It's a movie. You want to see it. Oh my God, that guy is really an asshole. You also want the filmmaker to challenge what the rest of the world would just agree with, right? That no, for this movie, I'm talking about the opposite of what we all like about the world. I'm going to talk about this something else, right? And it's a topic for conversation. It's you go out. You don't need to agree with what it says. That's why it's a movie because the more you disagree with it, the better for the filmmaker who did it as a way to discuss the other side of what's agreeable to everyone. No?
In 2016 and 2017, you openly criticized Metro Manila Film Festival for the selection process after they sort of snubbed Honor Thy Father and By Bust.
Yeah.
But
Maganda yung mga tanong mo ha kasi I've been thinking about
salamat.
that. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I've
we're
been
gonna talk
thinking about.
about it.
Yeah.
But in the years since, you've sort of chosen to collaborate with them
Yeah.
in different ways. So with Upstream in 2020,
Yeah.
and Strange Frequencies more recently, which you produced.
Mm.
So what keeps you engaging with an institution that you've so publicly disagreed with when others could have chosen to boycott them?
I've probably been toilet trained right after. You might call it that. um, so hey, I was so pissed about what happened to Honor Thy Father, and it was the way our partnership, me and Don's partnership work is. I'm just creative, and I don't know much about the business strategy, the business moves. It was a strange story because we were fighting, including in the Congress. We went to Congress with Honor Thy Father, and then we saw ourselves, May, shit, we're still on Honor Thy Father. We're halfway into the year and we haven't done any movie. So nagmadali kami. We wrote a new script which eventually became Seclusion. And we joined MMFF again. No? And it was Don Don who told me that ah I d- I don't think MMFF is about great movies. I think it's about what the audience expects for Christmas.
Mhm.
Oh. And I kept on thinking about it. And I think that's where the change happened. The answer to my friends now when they ask me about it is I said, I think we need to just play the game of MMFF. If you don't want to play the game of MMFF, then don't join MMFF. I don't know if I've settled to the idea that you can never fight MMFF, or to have just realized, okay, if you want to do something serious and a movie that you love so much, a script that's so well made, maybe MMFF is not for you. Maybe it should be somewhere else. But, okay, here's the irony of what I'm saying. The irony is, where is the deluge of so much audience that's coming in a year? MMFF. Yun lang. So that's the reason why, Himala would want to also be there because you're hoping mag-word of mouth lang. First 2 days, pag may nag-word of mouth lang nito, oh my God, we're gonna get back the money we produced for such a special passion project.
We've been talking a lot about like the game of the film industry and MMFF. And what I've observed about the local film industry, it's just there's a lot of big players who
Mhm.
squeeze out the smaller ones. And hindi lang siya sa production or sa distribution where you have the big studios, but also in exhibition where you have these big malls who
Yeah.
control what's shown on screen. And a lot of it is foreign films because they're lucrative. As a filmmaker, how do you navigate that system without compromising your creative vision?
Which is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to do local movies that will not just earn here. I mean, yeah, we're expecting it to earn and get the Filipino audience to watch it, but that there's another part of the distribution that goes into another market, which is also good money, no? Because just to depend on the local market, it's hard to deal with all the other players. One prime example is with us, for example, now the go-to after theatrical, the go-to company to sell what you showed on the cinemas is just Netflix. That's the second window. Before, you have a second window, which is Netflix, and then when ABS was still open, they'd license all our films to show on their TV stations. But now that ABS is closed, they no one's buying our films. So that's one more window. Imagine this: you have a 20 million peso movie. You showed it at the box office, in the movie houses. You probably earned 10 million, 11 million. No? So you're still losing by 9 million, right? With a big enough star, Netflix would see your film, and if they say, "Yeah, we're interested to get it," you could probably sell it between 8 to 15 million to Netflix, right? So, okay, now that saves you the money, right? The rest of the money. But then you haven't earned much with all the hard work that you poured into the film for 4 months, 5 months, right? So the ABS-CBN licensing would give you another 5, 7 million for that film. So, you still have value to risk making a movie worth 20 million, which is not a lot of producers would do. No? A lot of the movies on a regular studio would produce 12 to 15 million, because you're hoping that with a lower risk you manage your finances, if it doesn't make money in the cinemas. But also the audience doesn't want to watch. The audience knows, when you watch a trailer, mura lang to. 'Di ba? They would know if it's nasa kahuyan ka lang, 'di ba? You're always in the forest, long road, wala. Okay,
One shot,
oh, yung
static
ganon.
shot.
So the audience knows, and it's not enough for them to stand up and say, "Okay, okay, let's go and watch it in the big screen." So that's what suffered sa atin. So if you don't have an international plan with your films, you're stuck with how much this market can offer you. And usually it's not enough to make money out of it, to make your next film.
I think a lot of executives across the cultural sector, they often underestimate the Filipino audience. What's your take on that? Do you think they're smarter, or do you think they're being underestimated?
Yeah, yeah. It's been a long time that um, that a lot of us filmmakers know that we're not gonna pander to, a dumb audience, because our audience isn't dumb at all. They're not stupid because of the teleserye mentality. You get scripts where, one basic example is, you go in the protagonist goes into a room and then says, "Ay, walang tao." Right? Immediately with me, scratch it out. The filmmaker needs to show that there's no one there. She doesn't need to verbalize it. But on TV, they need to verbalize it, because different directors do the script and they're not sure if the director is gonna show an empty room, right? So in order for it to be idiot proof, they need to verbalize everything that happens. Nakakatakot. That's why we take out all the lines in our scripts that that um, that explains how the character is feeling. Kakalungkot talaga, namatay yung lolo ko. You get what I mean? Show it. Either by a drop of a tear, and then you say, namatay lolo ko. Okay na nga yun na namatay lolo ko,
Show
even
the
if we saw the kabao, the other scene. No? Pero parang ganon. And the audience cannot accept that anymore. But, again, for a Pinoy movie, okay siya, ha? Di ba? They're accepting. Yan yung the past movies I've seen over the past weeks. Ganon lahat eh. Na parang, hindi. For a Pinoy movie, okay siya, ha? Oh, yan yung away namin ni na Charm eh.
There's a huge catalog of Philippine cinema na hindi accessible for the wider audience. I want to know, may role ba ang piracy in the Philippine film industry in maybe broadening access or archiving lost works? Does piracy have a place?
Oh, in our discussion, like decades ago pa, no, from Mother Lily, from Boss Vic Del Rosario, uh, do you hear Regal or Viva or Star Cinema complain about piracy? Wala. It's part of the whole filmmaking culture. Na once your movie comes out in the cinemas, expect there's a Facebook, Telegram link. It's gonna be all over the place, and it's just up to you as a studio to manage your losses by making sure that you get your money elsewhere. Because whoever the reasoning behind that for all of us is, the ones who cater to the piracy, those are not our audience anyway. Those are not the ones we intended them to watch our films, to pay for our films. No? But yes, like, believe it or not, a lot of us get access to all the most obscure films in the world, not just Filipino films, all the most obscure films in the world through piracy, right? You may not find it in this one pirate site. You go to another one, you eventually find it.
I want to know about your taste in films and how you developed that taste. Because you said that when you were growing up in your household, you had the trashy books and the intellectual books, and you often talk about popcorn films and trashy films, and all these types rom-coms and how you don't make it. What informs your taste?
It was a typical Filipino na taste. Okay? Growing up, I tatay kong nanay. I love tatay kong nanay, the sappy, melodramatic ones. No, I also am a fan of mga working girls. No? Wala pa yung mga Manila by Night, mga ganon. No? Then when I went into college and I became a film student, and I was able to have access to like film appreciation. Believe it or not, I had a film appreciation, and they showed us all the classics, no, the Grand Illusion, Citizen Kane, Caligula was shown to us, not the best movie, pero Caligula was shown to us, no, Bicycle Thief, yung mga ganon, no, but it never really developed my taste at that time, no. I felt it was ang haba, ang init, ang bigat, no. So I really was gravitating towards genre movies. Genre movies, ayun, Shaolin, action, horror, and I've rummaged through all those. And in the last few years of my dad, ako na yung nagre-rent ng mga VHS sa kanya eh. So, I'd rent Commando, paulit-ulit, First Blood ni Sylvester Stallone. And then one day, I brought home True Romance, which I really loved. I was, fourth year college, no? True Romance. And I didn't know Quentin wrote it. It was a Tony Scott movie lang. No? I saw it and I really loved it. I binged it that night. The next morning, he was having breakfast and I said, yung hiniram ko na True Romance, ang ganda. Ganon. And that was the first time I heard his comment about the things I rent na hindi niya hiningi. Because he saw it that afternoon. And then umuwi ako from school. Sabi niya sa akin, alam mo, remind me again not to watch the movies that you say are good. Sabi niya, muntik na ako makatulog. Sabi niya kasi ang tagal daw ng bakbakan. Ang tagal daw ng...
So, I'm gonna ask you a question and give me a why in one sentence. What's your favorite trashy film?
Pwede naman mag-isip ito.
Oo, pwede naman.
Hindi naman na parang off the top of my head. Kasi baka masabi ko yung pinag-usapan natin kanina.
Oh. Go.
Diba?
Favorite
Okay.
film.
Shit. There's a lot, maybe. Pero the thing that popped into my head, revenge. Revenge, not the revenge of Tony Scott, but the revenge of the Substance director.
Why?
Yan. It's so hyper, it's over the top. A lot of it is unbelievable, but because the conviction of making it, doing it, even with her falling off the mountain, getting all slashed and shot, and she's still alive, trying to get revenge. It's really fun to watch.
Great. What's your favorite horror film?
I keep on saying Rosemary's Baby. It's something that you want to teach horror filmmakers, that not everything is hinged on the supernatural, but it didn't shy away from the supernatural, because you cannot just say, oh, it's a horror movie, and then trick the producer na, ay, hindi naman pala siya horror. There is a horror in it, no? The son eventually becomes the son of the devil, but the horror is so sophisticated, without doing cheap tricks, but it's so scary and it's so well parang calibrated ni Polanski.
Okay. What's the last film you'd watch before you die?
Once Upon a Time in America. I could probably I have all the versions of it. I have the 3 hour 30 minutes. I have the 4 hour 15 minutes. And I have the 5 hour 15-minute cut of it. I don't have the original that was shown in Cannes, where
Yet.
no, I don't want to get it. I don't
You
want to
don't
have
want to
it.
get it.
So, so Arnon Milchan, the producer, who was a big fan of Sergio Leone's Italian westerns, said, met in Cannes and said, "Oh, I really want to do a movie with you." And he said, "Yes," but he was expecting Leone to be doing another Italian western, the likes of Magnificent Seven, and but then he wanted to do his passion project, which is a gangster movie set in New York, and it's an epic. It was at a time when jumping timelines was not yet in fashion. It's not flashbacks. It's jumping timelines all around. Was not in fashion. The first cut that he saw, Arnon Milchan said, "Oh my God, why don't you just tell the story in sequence?" So it was launched in Cannes, but Arnon Milchan was when it was shown in the U.S., he said the Americans will not understand it. Same question that you had earlier on the do we have a dumb audience? Of course, the Americans aren't dumb. No, once upon a time in America, no matter how long it is, we were talking about Bellatar and all those, and I couldn't stand it. This one, I could watch it over and over again. Really great ensemble. James Woods, Robert De Niro, Elizabeth McGovern. And one trivia is, I was we were in Venice for on the job, and we were at the after party, and then Bong Joon-ho sat at our table, and we were eating, talking about on the job, etc., etc. And he said, "Oh, did you know this is the banquet where Robert De Niro closed down the restaurant to dance with Elizabeth McGovern?" In
Kidding.
oh, grabe talaga. So parang, oh my God, oo nga. Di ba? Yun, la, 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 la. Tapos ni-rape niya si Elizabeth McGovern right after. Di ba?
Medyo ang hirap mag one sentence dyan, ah.
Oo nga.
Favorite
Ah.
film? Is it your favorite film?
No, siguro, ganun na, pero parang corny naman kung yung dalawang tanong pareho, di ba?
Okay.
Um,
What is a movie you wish you made?
I wish I made Sicario.
Why?
Sicario's script was sent to me prior to Denis Villeneuve. It was at the heydays of On the Job. I don't know if they're gonna give it to me, but you know what? These CAA guys, the American agencies, they have all these scripts that are dormant, and Taylor Sheridan wasn't a hot thing then. When they get a new client of directors from Spain, Mexico, one from the Philippines, or wherever, they'd automatically send all these dormant scripts. See if you like it, do a take on it, if you do a director's treatment on it, and then let's talk to the producers, etc. So I got Sicario, and you know what? I'm, I wished I had made the Denis Villeneuve because I never saw. It's exactly like the script, but I never saw his take on it. The way he executed it. When I was reading it, this is so simple. This is not. I was looking for the complications in the character.
So you wish you made the Dennis Sicario?
Yes, because I didn't see what he did on it. Because I dismissed the script saying, "Oh, okay." I didn't see the promise that Denis Villeneuve saw in the material. And
Okay. And who is in your Mount Rushmore of Filipino directors?
Filipino directors. Okay. Ismael Bernal, Celso Ad Castillo, Peque Gallaga, Mario J. De Los Reyes. If not for Carnal, I mean, Carnal may be my favorite of Marilu Diaz-Abaya, but the others, we can argue. So I'll bring in Marilu Diaz-Abaya. Yan.